if you're appreciating the virtual programming from Relative Theatrics, please consider showing us your support by making a donation. You can learn more or make a contribution via PayPal, Facebook, or on our website, and you can also mail us a check. No gift is too small, and every penny enriches our ability to bring you risky, relevant, and real theater.
We would love to connect with you on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can also sign up for our mailing list to find about future programming from Relative Theatrics on our website, which is relativetheatrics.com.
If you're in Laramie, we hope that you're enjoying a wine and cheese pairing from Chalk and Cheese for the month of September, so we're almost over with that. Misty is generously donating 10% of all pairing sales to Relative Theatrics, please have a sip if you're drinking now. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the Wyoming Arts Council, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Wyoming Humanities Council, and the National Endowment for Humanities for their grant funding. Thank you so much, and enjoy the show. Suppliants by Euripides. Our cast of characters include Aethra, mother of Theseus. Chorus, the suppliants, mothers of warriors who fell attacking Thebes. Theseus, king of Athens. Adrastus, king of Argos, leader of the expedition against Thebes. A herald from Thebes. A messenger, an Argive soldier taken captive in Thebes. Evadne, widow of Capaneus, struck down at Thebes. Iphis, father of Evadne. Athena, goddess, patron of Athens. And children, sons of the fallen warriors. The action takes place in front of the temple of Demeter in Eleusis in Attica.
Demeter, keeper of the hearth at Eleusis land, and you servants who tend the goddess's shrine, I pray to be happy along with my son Theseus, and the city of Athens and Pythia's country, where my father raised me in a wealthy home and gave me his daughter Aethra in marriage to Aegeus, Pandion's son, as bidden by oracles of Apollo. This is my prayer as I look at these old faces of women who have left their homes in Argos and fall here at my knees with suppliant branches. They've suffered a terrible blow around Cadmus city gates. Their 7 noble sons have died. They are childless now. Adrastus, the Argive king, led them in vain attempt to reclaim a share of Oedipus' royal inheritance for his son-in-law, Polynices. They lie dead here, fallen in battle. Their mothers want to lay their limbs to rest, but the victors forbid it, and defying God's law, will not even let the bodies be lifted off the ground. Adrastus, too, has need of me, a burden he shares with them. He lies here, weeping his eyes out, regretting the war he started and the ill-fated troops he led into harm's way, far from their home. He begs me to persuade my son with prayers to agree to gather up the bodies for burial, either through diplomacy or by force of arms. This is all he asks of my son, with the city of Athens to perform this service. I came from my home here to this sacred space to sacrifice for the land's yield. It was here that the bountiful stalk of grain first appeared, its ear bristling up from the ground below. bound by their vows, no bond at all. I wait here beside the holy altars of two goddesses, Demeter and her daughter, feeling pity for these gray-headed mothers who have lost their sons out of respect for their sacred wreaths. A herald has gone to town to summon my son Theseus here so that he will release the land from their sorrow or relieve their suppliant needs, doing what is right and holy towards the gods. Women who are wise do everything through their men. That is our custom.
We implore you, old woman, through our old women's lips, and fall at your knees, recover our sons. Lawless men have left the flesh of those who died in bone-crushing death to be carrion for beasts that roam the hills. You see the bitter tears of despair in my eyes, and this wrinkled, faded old flesh gouged by my nails. What else can I do? I did not lay out my dead sons at home. I did not see their funeral mounds piled high. You are a mother too, O queen. You have a son. Through him, you sweetened your marriage for your husband. Share with us now the feelings of your heart. Feel the depth of our grief as we mourn for our lifeless sons. Persuade your son, this we implore you, to go to the river Ismenus and put into our arms the bodies fallen in their prime, wandering now unburied. Not in reverence, but under duress, I come to kneel in prayer at the sacrificial altars of the gods. We have right on our side, and you have the power as a mother blessed in her child to relieve our unhappy fortune. In our deep suffering, we implore your son to put their bodies into our poor hands so we can embrace the sorry limbs of our sons. This second bout of grieving follows on top of the last. Hands of servants pound the beat. Come, sounding in response. Come, grieving together to the dance death honors. Across your cheek drag your white nails and redden your skin with blood. Whoa! Whoa! The rites to the dead bring glory to the living. The pleasure of grief, full of pain, never enough, transports me like water running in drops from a steep, rugged rock without surcease in its mourning. When children are lost, a woman's painful lot is wailing tears of grief. Whoa! Whoa! I wish I could end this pain by dying.
What is all this mourning and beating of breasts? These threnodies for the dead. I hear this solemn din issuing from the temple. Anxiety sets me on edge. I've come for my mother. Has something happened to her? She's been away from home such a long time. What's this? A strange subject hits my eyes. My elderly mother sitting at the altar, surrounded by old women who are strangers to me, beating out not just a single strain of grief from their aged eyes, but piteous tears that stream to the ground. Their hair is cut in mourning, and they are not dressed for the festival. What is this, mother? It's up to you to inform me, and to me to hear you out. I suspect something's not right.
My son, these women are the mothers of sons who met their deaths attacking the gates of Cadmus, those 7 commanders. With suppliant bows, as you see, they hold me here encircled, dear son.
And who is that man raising a din at the temple doors?
They say his name is Adrastus, king of the Argives.
And these children around him, Are they theirs?
No, they are the sons of the men killed in battle.
So why do they come to us, reaching out a suppliant's hand?
I know their story, but it should come from them.
Hey, you there, wrapped in your shawl, answer my questions. Uncover your head. Cease your mournful noise and speak. Except through discussion, no decision can be made.
King of the Athenians' land, Theseus, glorious in victory, I am here as a suppliant to you and the city.
What have you come after? What do you ask of us?
You know the disastrous expedition that I led?
Yes, I do. You did not pass through Greece in secrecy.
That's how I lost the best and the brightest men in Argos.
That kind of disaster is often the result of brutal war.
I went to ask the city for the men who had died there.
Relying on Hermes' sacred heralds to bury the bodies.
Yes, but those responsible for their death won't allow it.
What was their reason, when what you asked was right?
What do you think? Their success did not make them wise.
Have you come to me for advice, or what do you want?
Theseus, I want you to bring back the Argive men.
Well, where is your Argos now? Are her boasts for nothing?
Defeated! We are utterly defeated. We have come to you.
Was this your private decision, or did the public consent?
All the people of Argos supplicate you to bury the dead.
Why did you lead the 7 companies against Thebes?
I was doing it as a favor for my 2 sons-in-law.
Which of the Argive men wooed your daughters?
I did not make an alliance with any native Argives.
Are you saying you gave Argive girls to outsiders?
Yes, one to Tydeus and one to Polynices, a native of Thebes.
What made you want to bring these men into your family?
Phoebus' confusing riddle caught me off my guard.
What did Apollo say about making matches for your girls?
That I should give my 2 daughters to a boar and a lion.
So how did you unwind the gods' inspired utterances?
One night, 2 refugees came to my palace gates.
Who were they? Tell me, you mentioned 2 men at once.
Tydeus and Polynices. They got into a fight with each other.
And you gave your daughters to them as if they were wild beasts?
Yes, I thought they fought like 2 savage animals.
How did it come about that they had left their homelands?
Tydeus was in exile for spilling the blood of a kinsman.
And Oedipus' son? What caused him to leave Thebes?
His father's curses. He was afraid he might kill his brother.
It was a good idea for him to accept that voluntary exile.
But those who stayed mistreated those who went away.
Was his brother trying to deprive him of his birthright?
Yes. To avenge that wrong, I set out. That's how I was ruined.
Didn't you consult with seers? Look at the sacrificial flame?
Alas, you indict me where I made my biggest mistake.
You did not, as it seems to me, set out with the gods' favor.
Even worse, I set out despite the advice of Amphiaraus.
You find it so easy to brush aside the gods' will.
Yes, my mind was muddled by young men's clamor.
You acted with a stout heart rather than a sound mind.
Something that has brought many commanders to ruin. You, who are most valiant throughout all Greece, king of Athens, I feel ashamed to kneel on the ground as a suppliant and grasp your knees in my hands, a gray-haired man, a king once, favored by heaven. Yet I must yield to my reduced circumstances. Bring the bodies back to me, I beg you. Take pity on my mistakes. Pity these mothers of dead sons. Gray-headed old age has come on them, bringing childlessness in its wake. They have dared to come here and set foot on foreign soil, their limbs cramped by old age, not on a mission to Demeter's mysteries, but to bury their dead sons, though they are the ones at an age ripe to receive this service from them. It is wise for the rich man to look at poverty, and a poor man to take an interest in the wealthy, so that a desire for prosperity will take hold in him, and those without misfortune to regard others' misery. And the poet, when he produces a poem, takes joy in its creation. Yet if he does not feel this pleasure, he cannot bring comfort or joy to his audience when he's in personal torment. It would not be right. Then perhaps you'll say, how is it that you ignore Pelops' land and come to lay this burden on Athens? This explanation I have to offer by way of justification. Sparta is harsh and is known for a deceitful character. The other states are small and impotent, but your city is the only one that has the strength to withstand this labor, for it is attentive to others' suffering and can claim you as its young shepherd, something many cities lack and are lost because they are in want of such a leader.
I, too, add my voice to his, Theseus. Take pity on our tragedy.
I have often struggled over this question in debates with others. I've heard it suggested that the bad things in our lives are more numerous than the good. Well, I have the opposite opinion to this. I say that mortals have more that's good than bad. If not, we wouldn't be able to get on with life. I have nothing but praise for that God who set our lives in order out of chaos and brutality. First instilling reason, then bestowing speech, the give and take of words so we understand each other, then the growing of crops, with the life-giving drops of rain falling from the sky, so that the earth's bounty gives food and drink for our bellies. After that, defense against winter weather, protection from the sun's heat, and sailing across the sea so that we can carry on trade with each other for whatever we lack at home. And if something is obscure and we don't see it, by looking into the fire or down at the folds of entrails or watching birds' flights, seers make it known to us. Isn't it arrogant on our part when God has provided so well for the needs of life to find it insufficient? Our self-importance strives us to get us power greater than God's, and obsessed with pride in our intelligence, we deem ourselves to be more clever than the gods. You, it's clear, belong to this company. Foolishly, you gave your daughters in marriage to outsiders, following oracles as if you believed in the gods' power, and by mixing your splendid family with society's dregs, you tainted your house. A man of sense should not bring good people into contact with persons of low character, but should ally himself with the house that is blessed by God. Gods do not make such fine distinctions. The man contaminated by the disease, even if he has done no wrong, is destroyed by the troubles of the sick. Next, you led the Argive forces on a military expedition. You had the seer's prophecies, but disregarded them. You defied the gods and destroyed your city, led on by young men who are greedy for glory and build up war fever with no regard for right and wrong, causing loss of life among the citizens. One for military command, another to seize power and live a life of luxury, another for profit, without a care for whether or not the people as a whole will be harmed by his actions. Citizens fall into three categories. The super rich and unproductive. All they care about is getting more. The have-nots, those in need of a livelihood. Give us reason to fear them because they live in envy. They make the rich targets of their slings and slanders, brainwashed by the mouthings of vicious leaders. Now, of the three, the middle class is our only salvation, defending the good government established in the city. And then what? You want me to become your ally in this war? What good reason can I put before my citizens? I bid you goodbye. If your plans have failed, it is your lot to feel the crunch, but count us out.
They made a mistake, as young men often do. You ought to show him some compassion. We came here for relief from our troubles.
King Theseus, I did not choose you as judge of my troubles, and if I am found to have done wrong, I don't need you as my castigator in chief, but I came for your aid. If you choose not to help me, I must be content with your decision. What can I do? Come, old women, let's go. Leave this place. Put down your pale green suppliant boughs wound with wool. Call to witness the gods and earth and Demeter, torch-bearing goddess, and the sun's light, that our prayers to the gods have come to nothing.
Theseus, son of Aethra, daughter of Pythias, who was son of Pelops, and we, who come from Pelops' land, have the same blood in our veins as you. What will you do? Betray your heritage and drive out gray-headed women and not treat them as you should? Do not do this. A wild beast has its rocky refuge, a slave has the gods' altars to turn to, a storm-tossed city cowers to another city. For in all of mortals' affairs, nothing has the gods' blessing all the way to the end. Go now, old women, leave Persephone's sacred ground. Go now and beseech him, laying your hand on his knees to recover for us the bodies of our slain sons. Oh, misery! I lost my sons at the walls of Cadmus' city. Whoa. Whoa. Take hold, support, conduct, decide in favor of our poor old hands. By your beard, I beg you, dear friend, most renowned in Greece, in my grief I beg you, falling at your knee and touching your hand, take pity on me for my children. A wandering suppliant letting out a mournful, mournful, keening cry of woe. Do not allow our sons to go unburied in Cadmus' land. Tender morsels for wild animals feast, I beg you in your youth. Look upon the tears in my eyes as I fall down at your knees to beg of you a burial for my son.
Mother, why are you crying and covering your head with your fine cloak? Is it from hearing their sorrowful laments? I felt something to raise your white head. Do not sit in tears at the sacred hearth of the goddess Dio.
It is so sad.
Their grief is no reason for you to cry.
Poor, poor women.
You are not one of them.
May I say something, son, that is a credit to you and the city?
Yes. A lot of wisdom comes from women's words.
Still, I hesitate to give the advice I'm holding inside.
Shame on you to hide useful advice from friends.
I will not then be silent now and later blame my silence because I kept silence to our harm, nor in fear that it is useless for a woman to give good advice will I dismiss mine out of timidity. First, my son, I ask you to consider the gods' part in this so you don't slip up out of disrespect. In all other ways you show wisdom, but not in this. Besides that, if we did not need to show courage on behalf of the wrong, then I would hold my tongue. As it is, be aware of how much honor this brings you. And it causes me no fear in advising it, my son. The violent men who are preventing the dead bodies from obtaining the burial and funeral rites, do them with your own hand. You should force them to do this. Stop them from tainting the laws all Greeks share. It is this, you know, that sustains human society when everyone preserves the laws scrupulously. Then someone will say that you had a chance to win a crown of glory for Athens, but you stood back in fear because you were a coward. Yet you took part in the struggle with the wild boar, a useless sport. But when you ought to take up this struggle in sight of helmet and spear point, you proved a coward. You are my son, Theseus. Do not do this. Do you see how your country, ridiculed as lacking in policy, turns a glaring eye at the scoffers? The city's reputation will grow through its efforts, but those isolationist cities acting in obscurity because of their caution also look darkly on others. Will you not go, my son, and bring aid to the dead and to these unhappy women in their hour of need? I have no fear for you, setting out with right on your side. And though I see the people of Cadmus prospering now, I am confident there will sometime be a different fall of the dice. A god can turn everything on its head.
Dear, dear woman, thank you for your kind words to him on our behalf. Our pleasure in this counts twice.
Mother, the words I have just spoken are right, so far as he is concerned, and I have made clear my opinion on the decisions that tripped him up. But I also understand what you advise me to do, how it is not consistent with my inclinations to avoid dangers. By performing many glorious feats, I have displayed this character among the Greeks, always to stand out as a scourge against wrongdoing. It is not possible for me to repudiate toils. And what will those with ill feelings toward me say when my own mother, who fears for me more than anyone else, is the first to argue this undertaking? I will do it. I will go and gain release for the bodies using diplomacy. But if that fails, it will be done by force of arms. And I will have the gods on my side. Still, I need the whole city to approve of this. And if I am for it, they will approve. Yet by sharing this deliberation, I will have this city better disposed. When I liberated Athens, I established the people as sovereign, with equal suffrage for all citizens. I will take Adrastus as proof of my arguments and go into the assembly of the people and convince them. I will come back with a force of elite Athenian youth, and waiting under arms, I will send Creon a message, requesting him to give up the bodies of the fallen. Old women, come, remove your sacred boughs from my mother so that I can escort her home to the house of Aegeus, taking her by her loving hand. It is a thankless child who does not repay his parents' kindnesses to him. By giving this service, he can expect to get back from his own children what he gave to his parents.
Argos, pasture of horses, my father's ground. Did you hear this? Did you hear it? The king's reverence for the gods and great deeds for our ancient land and throughout Argos. If only he will reach the limit and beyond of my suffering and bring back a mother's gory prize, and through his kindness make Inachus land his ally. Pious struggle is a glorious prize and has eternal thanks. What will the city decide? Will it strike an alliance? Will we achieve burials for our sons? City of Pallas, defend the mothers, defend us. Do not pollute humanity's laws. You revere what's right, you disdain the wrong, and you protect all of the wretched earth.
You use your herald's craft to serve our city and me in delivering messages when needed. Go now, across Asopus and Ismenus' water, and say this to the Thebans' haughty despot. Theseus asks you, as a favor, to bury the bodies, believing that as a neighbor this is right, and to make an ally of the people of Euripides. If he agrees, thank him, and come back with all speed. But if he refuses, offer this alternative. Then play host to my shield-bearing revel band. The army waits, stationed and ready nearby, fully armed beside the sacred spring Calichorus. Tell him, the city willingly, even gladly, accepted the struggle when they saw I was in favor for it. Oh, look, who is this coming to interpret our words? A Cadmean, herald, from the look of him, though I don't know him. Hold on, in case he will save you the trouble by agreeing to my decisions.
Who is master here? To whom am I to deliver the message from Creon, who governs Cadmus's land, now that Etioclass has perished at the seven-mouthed gates, fallen at the hand of his brother Polynices?
First, my friend, you used the wrong word to begin your speech in looking for a master here. A city that is free is not governed by one man acting alone, but the citizens are sovereign, taking turns by yearly succession, and it does not give the lion's share to the wealthy, but the poor man has an equal part.
In our game of dice, this is one point you cede to our advantage. The city I come from is governed by one man and is not in the hands of the mob. There is no one to puff the citizens up with his words, turning them this way and that for his own advantage. One instant he's well-liked and gains popularity, the next he causes ruin. Then, coming up with new lies, he hides his earlier failures and gets off unpunished. Anyway, how could the people, who aren't capable of reasoning straight, guide a city on a straight course? A better understanding is reached through time than in haste. A poor man who toils on the land, even if he has some education, could not look out for the common good because he has work to do. For serious people, this is an unhealthy situation, if a worthless man rises in value by controlling the people with rhetoric when he comes from dirt.
Our herald is a braggart, and it seems an amateur orator. Well, since you are the one to have initiated the debate, listen to me. You have set the terms of the discussion. There's nothing more corrosive to society than tyranny, where, first of all, there are no laws established for the common good, but one man holds all the power, becoming a law unto himself. There's no equality. Where the laws are written, the powerless poor and the rich have equal justice before the law. If he is slandered, the less fortunate man can use the same words as the one in better circumstances. The weaker can defeat the stronger if his cause is just. This is freedom. Does anyone have a good suggestion for the city's welfare that he wants to present to the people? And whoever chooses to do so, he's admired. Whoever doesn't is free to remain silent. What is more equitable than this, huh? And truly, when the citizens are a country's masters, they are happy to count many young people in their ranks. A man who is king, however, finds this dangerous, and the best of the citizens, any he thinks are clever, he puts to death out of suspicion and fear for his power. How can a city remain strong and secure when the ruler eradicates enterprise and cuts down the young like stalks of grain in a spring meadow? Why should we gain wealth and a livelihood for our children only to toil at a despot's game? Or why bring up daughters in a chastely at home to be playthings for tyrants when they so desire, and get them ready for tragedy? May I end my life if my children are to be subject to a tyrant's lust. These words I have aimed in answer to yours. Tell me, what need has brought you here to our land? Your city had not sent you, your ugly words would make you regret the trip. A herald should say his piece as he has been told and leave with all good speed. Next time, I hope Creon will send a messenger to our city who is a man of fewer words than you.
When a god gives kind blessings to the evil, they grow haughty as if they will always be on top.
Now it's my turn to speak on the points under dispute. You trust in your opinion, and I take the opposite view. With the backing of all the people of Thebes, I forbid you to allow Adrastus to set foot in this country. If he is already in the land before the sun goes down, break up his sacred ritual vows of supplication and drive him out. Do not try to take up the bodies by force, since the city of Argos is no concern of yours. If you go along with me, You will pilot your city in calm waters, but otherwise, a great sea swell of war will rise and overwhelm you and your allies. Consider carefully and do not, out of irritation, my words, because you believe your city is free, puff up with pride and make your answer from weakness. Hope is faithless. It sets many cities to join in battle with each other, leading their spirit to deeds of excess. Whenever war comes up for a vote of the people, no one any longer figures his own death is imminent. Instead, he lays this misfortune off on somebody else. If death were before their eyes when the vote is cast, war-crazy Greece would not now be destroying itself. And yet of the 2 points of argument, we all know which is better, both the good and the bad of each. How much better peace is than war for humankind. Peace, far and away the muse's favorite, an enemy to retribution, delighted by children growing up, happy in prosperity. But brushing all this aside, in our delusion, we choose war, and we enslave the weaker, man against man, city against city. You want to help our enemies, our dead enemies, by taking up for burial men who were destroyed by their own violence? Isn't it right that Capaneus's body is still smoking from the thunderbolt when he raised up ladders to scale our gates and swore that he would sack our city whether God was willing or not? And that bird-watching seer, wasn't he swallowed up when his chariot and team went down into earth's maw? And the same for the other warriors lying outside our gates, their bones crushed to smithereens by stones. Be confident that you know more than Zeus himself, or admit that the gods are right to lay low lawless men. Men with good sense ought to love their children first, then their parents and country, which they should increase and not shipwreck. A rash commander is as dangerous as a young sailor. A calm one is skilled when needed. And this, discretion in a crisis, is the better part of valor.
Zeus has already punished them enough. There is no need to add insult to our loss.
You vile, vile man.
Quiet, Adrastus. Hold your tongue. Do not try to press your case in front of mine. He has not come here to bring a proclamation for you, but for me. So it is my prerogative to answer him. In my response, I will take up your first points first. I did not realize that Creon was my master, and his power was so much greater than he could compel Athens to do as he commands. Watch the world spin backward if we are to be pushed around like that. I am not the one who's bringing on this new war. I did not go with these men into Cadmus's land either. I am not trying to do damage to your city or causing the kind of struggle that comes at the cost of human life, but the bodies of the dead. I have the right to bury them, preserving the law of all Greeks. What's wrong with that? Whatever you suffered at the hands of the Argives, they are dead now. You defended yourself against your foes, oh, so nobly, but disgracefully for them. Your claims have been met. It's time to allow their bodies to be laid to rest in the ground. Let each of their parts return to that element from which it came into the light. Spirit into the air, the body into the earth. For we do not own our body, except to live our life in it, and then when we depart this life, earth, who supported it, takes it back again. Do you think you were hurting Argos by refusing burial? Well, you're not. This matter concerns all of Greece when someone robs the dead of what they deserve to have and keeps them unburied. Even the bravest soldiers will turn coward if that custom becomes established. Have you come here to give me an ultimatum, and yet you are afraid of the dead if they will be laid to rest? Well, what are you afraid will happen? That if they are buried, they will dig up your land? Or in the depths of the earth, they will father children from whom vengeance will come? This is a foolish waste of words, yours and mine. It's to voice fear of imagined chimeras in your mind. Listen, you fools. Learn the tragedy of human existence. Our lives are a struggle until the end. Some prosper soon, some later. For others, their luck has come and gone. Fortune is a tease. It is held in the highest regard by the unfortunate, those who want to rise in the world, but the well-off, afraid luck's favor will leave them, hold it in high esteem. We know all this, and so we must, when wronged, bear it not with anger, but moderation, and avoid doing what will bring harm upon the city. So what should be done then? Allow us, we just want to do the right thing, to bury the bodies of the fallen. Or accept this truth. I shall go and bury them by force. It will never be published among the Greeks that when it came down to me in Pandian city, that the gods' ancient law was brought to nothing.
Take heart. In preserving the light of justice, you will avoid the many harsh words of men.
May I answer in brief what you have just said?
Say whatever you wish. You aren't one to hold back.
You will never take the sons of Argos from our land.
Hear now what I have to say in answer to you.
I'll hear you out only because it is your turn.
I shall go to Aesopian land and bury the bodies.
First, you will have to run the risk of armed combat.
Before this, I have risked undergoing many other labors.
Did your father bring you up to take on all commerce?
Yes, all the insolent. We do not side against the good.
You and your city make a habit of meddling.
Yes, by being active, we achieve many blessings.
Bring it on. Our spear will catch you at your work.
What raging army could come from a serpent's teeth?
You will know it when you suffer it. You're still young.
For all your boasts, you do not move my heart to seethe with rage. But now, depart from my land, and take with you the empty words you brought. We have reached an impasse. We must muster every man in arms and men, mounted on chariots and horsemen to drive their steeds, their mouths dripping with foam, against the land of Cadmus. I will go right up to the Cadmean 7 gates myself, wielding the whetted steel in my hands. I will act as my own herald. Adrastus, you are to remain here and not let your fortune get mixed up with mine. I will lead my army under my own guiding spirit, fresh, with my own fresh spear. I need one thing only. The gods are on my side. All those who respect what's right, if they are with me, victory is assured. Manly valor means nothing to mankind if they do not have the gods' goodwill.
Unhappy mothers of unhappy warriors, I feel green fear rush into my heart. What is this new cry of alarm you utter? How will the army of Pallas face the crisis? Do you mean the sword or exchange of words? Well, that would be good, but what if casualties of war and battles and the noises of breast beating will be heard through the city? What words will be said of me, the unhappy cause of it all? A change of luck may turn again on the victor, proud in his success. This brave thought comforts me. You speak as if the gods are just. Who else deals out our destinies? I see many different fates dealt by the gods. You are unnerved by the old fears. Right calls for right, death for death, and the gods give surcease of sorrows to all humankind, holding the end of all that is. I wish I could reach the plains with their lofty towers and leave Calicorus, waters of the goddess. If only a god would give you wings. I would go to the city between the 2 rivers. You would quickly know the fortunes of our friends, what fate, what destiny is in store for the valiant king of this land. Again, we invoke the gods invoked before. In our fear, they are our foremost trust. O Zeus, father of Inachus, born from the heifer, our ancient mother, be a gracious ally to this city, your prize. Bullock of the city, outraged bodies, bring them to the pyre.
Women, I have come here with good news to tell. I have myself been rescued, for I was taken captive in the battle that the 7 dead leaders waged beside the waters of the river Dursey. I bring the news of Theseus' victory. I will save you the trouble of asking. I was lieutenant to Capaneus, who was burnt to ashes by Zeus' fiery lightning.
Dear, dear man, the news of your homecoming is welcome, and your words about Theseus If the army of Athens is out of harm's way, all your news is good.
Yes, it is unharmed and has succeeded as Adrastus should have done when he led the expedition of the Argives from the river Inachus to Cadmus city.
How then did Aegeus' son and those who wielded the spear with him set up the trophy to Zeus? Tell us, you were there, were you not? You can lift our spirits.
The sun's bright rays, morning's clear sign fell on the land. I stood by the electric gate to watch from a tower with a panoramic view. What I saw was 3 divisions of the army. The infantry in full battle gear, stretching up to the hill called Ismenian after the river god, and the king himself, Aegeus, renowned son, and those with him deployed on the right flank, men native to the ancient land of sea crops. The contingent from the coast, armed with the spear right by the spring of Ares, and the cavalry deployed on both edges of the army, equal in number. The chariots were stationed in the shadow of Amphion's sacred monument. The people of Cadmus stood in front of their walls. Behind them, the bodies they were fighting over. Horsemen were arrayed in arms against horsemen. Chariots with their teams deployed against chariots. Theseus' herald proclaimed to all assembled, "Be silent, people. Armies of Cadmus, in silence, hear me. We have come for the bodies. Our purpose is to give them burial, protecting the laws of all Greeks. It is not our wish to prolong the bloodshed." In answer to this, Creon heralded not a word, but stood silent in arms. The masters of chariots, all with 4 horse teams, then began the battle, driving the chariots up past the opposing line. So the spearmen were in striking position. They battled with javelins while the drivers turned the horses around in defense of the fighters. Phorbas, who was commander of the Athenian cavalry, siding the confused mass of chariots, and those who marshaled the Theban horsemen joined in the fray, advancing, then falling back. I saw this for myself and did not just hear it later. I was there when the chariots and riders struggled. I saw the many casualties as they happened. I don't know what to describe first. Oh. The dust that rose up to the sky, how it engulfed everything. For the men tangled in the reins, being dragged up and down in the streams of blood and gore of men tumbling down and chariots being shattered. The men were tossed head over heels to the ground and lost their lives in the wreckage of the chariots. When Creon surmised our side had the upper hand, with cavalry and chariots, he took up his shield and tore into the fray before desperation could overcome his men. Nor was Theseus' side broken through any hesitation, but snatching up his shining armor, he attacked at once in the midst of the whole army, weapons clashing. They killed and they were killed, and with a great shout, they passed along rallying commands through the ranks. Strike, hold your spear firm against the Athenians. Their army of men reared up from the serpent's teeth was a fierce opponent. Our left flank was collapsing, but theirs was being beaten back by our right wing and was trying to retreat. The contest was well matched. And this too, our commander-in-chief deserved praise, for he was not content with achieving this success, but he went wherever the army was struggling and let out a cry that caused the earth to resound. My men, if you cannot hold back the strong spear of these stone men, the Athenian cause is lost. Courage filled the spirits of the Athenian army. Theseus himself, taking up his Epidaurian weapon, a monstrous club, he swung it back and forth like a sling, hitting necks and heads at once, mowing off helmets, snapping them with its bulk. They couldn't take to their heels and retreat fast enough. As for me, I cried out for joy and danced the victory jig and clapped my hands. Ah! Ah. They struggled for their gates. Weeping and wailing was heard through the city of young and old as they crowded the temples in their terror, though he could have breached their walls. Theseus held back. I have not come to destroy your city, he called, but to reclaim the dead. Oh, this is the kind of man who should be chosen as commander, one courageous in a crisis, with a strong aversion to arrogant people who, when they do well, are so eager to reach the topmost rung of the ladder that they lose the success they could have enjoyed.
Today, seeing this unexpected outcome, I trust again in the gods' existence, and I feel my troubles are diminished now that they have paid the price.
Oh, Zeus. Why do people claim that wretched mortals use reason? We are dependent on you, and how we fare is whatever you want to happen. In our minds, Argos was invincible. We had strength of numbers, and our arms were young and strong. When Etioclass was trying to negotiate a truce, offering moderate terms, we turned him down, and so we were defeated. Their side, in turn, was lucky, and like a poor man suddenly coming into wealth, grew arrogant. Their arrogance, in turn, ruined them, those malicious people of Cadmus. Foolish men, you stretched the bow beyond the mark and suffered as you deserved, one disaster after another. You cities, do not listen to friends, but yield to circumstances. When you are able to deflect disaster through diplomacy, you choose death over reason. But what's the point? I want you to tell me this. How did you escape? Then I'll have more to ask.
When the confusion of war entered the city, I walked out of the gate by which the army came in.
The cause they fought for. Have you got the bodies?
Yes, all those who commanded the 7 contingents.
How so? And what of the remaining masses of dead?
They have been buried beside the glens of Scythiron.
On this side or the other? Who was it that buried them?
Theseus did. This side, on the shady cliff of Eleuthera.
The bodies he has not buried. Where did you leave them?
Nearby. What we won with ardent effort is here at hand.
Were servants disgusted to carry them from the massacre?
No. No one who was a slave was assigned to this task. You'd say so if you had been there when he tended the bodies.
He washed the wounds of the poor wretches himself?
Yes. And he laid them out on the biers and covered them.
It was a terrible burden, and one that brings shame.
There is no shame in sharing one another's troubles.
Ah me. I wish to God I had met my death with them.
Your lament is useless, and you're making the women cry.
Yes, you're right. They are the ones who are my teachers. I will go and raise my hands in greetings to the dead and pour forth tearful dirges of death, addressing friends of whom I am left bereft in my grief. I weep for their loss. Lost wealth can be won back, but this loss alone for mortals, once it is spent, can never be recovered, the breath that gives us life.
Some good news, some sad. Glorious victory for this city and honor for the men-at-arms are shared by both city and soldiers. And for me, to see limbs of my child stings my heart, and yet is a longed-for sight if I will see it, looking upon a day I never wished for, the greatest grief of all. I wish ancient Father Time had left me forever unwed up to this day. Why did I have to have children? I expect I would have suffered so terribly if I had been uncoupled from marriage. And now I see the most naked evil of all, the loss of my dear, dear sons. Oh, now I see the bodies brought here of my lost sons. Oh, sorrow! I wish I could die with my children going down in a common death.
Mothers, sound the lament for the dead going into the ground, keening in response, hearing my lamentation.
My children, how bitter this farewell from loving mothers. I speak to you, dead and gone.
Woe, woe,
Woe for my sorrows.
woe, woe.
Ah,
We have suffered. Oh,
most shameful, groveling grief.
oh, city of Argos, do you not look upon my fate?
They see us, the sorrowful, childless mothers of dead children.
Bring forward the bloody bodies of the ill-fated dead, slaughtered unworthily by an unworthy foe among whom the contest was fought.
Let me hold my children close in my embrace. Let me put my arms around them.
Here they are for you.
Oh, a heavy burden of grief.
Ah, me,
Have you nothing to say for the parents' grief?
you hear me.
You keen for us both.
I wish the ranks of the Cadmeans had laid me low in the dust.
I wish I had never been coupled to a man in wedlock.
Look on the ocean of sorrows, unhappy mothers of children.
We have furrowed our flesh with our nails and poured ashes on our heads.
Ah, me, ah, me! I wish the earth would swallow me up. I wish a whirlwind would tear me to pieces. I wish the flame of Zeus would crash through my head.
Bitter the marriages you have seen. Bitter the oracle of Thebes. The fury full of grief has left the house of Oedipus deserted, has come now to haunt you.
I had it in mind to question you as you poured out your grief before the army, but held off. Since I let the tale pass then, now I look to Adrastus for answers. How did it happen that these men were so outstanding in courage? Since you knew them better, speak to the young citizens here. You have the knowledge, for I saw the acts of courage by which they expected to capture the city were greater than words can tell. One thing I will not ask you, so you will not laugh at me. Which opponent each of them faced in battle, or whose was the spear that brought them down? These are worthless words, both for the listeners and the speaker. When a man is in the heat of battle, when spears are flying thick and fast before his eyes, how could he report which of the warriors was brave? I could neither ask such a question, and if anybody had the gall to tell such things, I would not believe him. It's hard enough for anyone to see what he has to when he is standing to face an enemy in battle.
Hear me now. I welcome the opportunity you offer me to give the dead their due and say what is true and genuine in eulogy of my friends. You see the man struck by the fiery lightning bolt? This is Capaneus. He had a prosperous life, but was never uppity about his wealth. In fact, he had no more self-importance than a man of slight means. avoiding anyone at the sumptuous table who was overbearing or disrespected moderation. Good, he said, lay not in gluttony, but moderation was enough. To his friends, he was a true friend, whether they were by his side or far away. Not many people are like that. He didn't know how to tell a lie. Though in conversation he was good-natured, he made good his obligations to his household and fellow citizens. My second subject is Etioclass, who was practiced in another kind of virtue. He was a young man of very limited means, but he had held many honors in the land of Argos. Though his friends often tried to enhance his wealth, he did not accept it into his home to avoid becoming its slave by taking on the burden of riches. Those who misruled incurred his hatred, but not the city itself, since he felt the city was not to blame if it came into disrepute because of a failed leader. The third is Hippomedon. His character was like this. From childhood, he had no heart for indulging in the pleasures of the muses and the easy life. But living in the country, he was eager to strengthen his physique to manly hardness. Going to the hunt, exercising his horses, stretching the bow in his hands, because he wanted to make his body useful to the state. Next is Parthenophaeus, the son of the huntress Atalanta, the handsomest man of his generation. He was an Arcadian, but he came to Inachus streams and was brought up in Argos. When he came of age, first, as becomes outsiders who are guests in a country, he was not prickly or offensive to the citizens, nor was he given to divisive speech, which makes a citizen or an alien especially annoying. He entered the ranks as if he were a native son and defended the country. Whenever the city did well, he was happy, but he took it hard when we suffered a loss. He had many lovers and was popular with women too, but was careful never to cause any hard feelings. My great esteem for Tydeus I shall put in few words. He was not flashy in speech, but a skilled craftsman in the practice of war, lethal to men of lesser skill. Though he was no match intellectually for his brother Meleager, he attained equal fame by his skill in battle. He made an exact science of the military arts. His nature was ambitious for honor, and his intelligence was rich in deeds, but not equally so in words. From these words, then, do not be surprised, Theseus, that these men dared to die before the towers. Noble upbringing carries a lifelong sense of respect, and any man who is practiced in goodness is ashamed to be a coward. Valor can indeed be taught. If it is true that even an infant is taught to speak and to hear words that he cannot yet understand, what a person learns, he's likely to keep until he's old. For that reason, take care in bringing up your children.
Oh, my child, I reared you to die young. I carried you under my heart, enduring the pangs of childbirth, and now Hades has taken the fruit of my ill-fated labor. I do not have you to tend my old age. To my sorrow, I once had a son.
The noble son of Eccles, the gods snatched him still alive into the depths of the earth with his chariot and team of 4, a blessing clear for all to see. The son of Oedipus, I'm talking about Polynices, we wouldn't be false in lauding him to the skies. He was my guest friend after he left Cadmus' city in exile before he chose to settle in Argos. Now, do you know what I would like you to do with him?
All I know is I must assent to your request.
Capaneus, the one struck by Zeus's thunderbolt.
Do you want to bury him apart as a sacred corpse?
Yes, but all the rest are to lie on the same pyre.
Where will you place the monument set apart for him?
Here, I will build up a tomb beside this temple.
This is a task that slaves can take care of.
And these will be my care. Let the bodies come forward.
Come, grieving mothers, Approach your sons.
No, no. What you have just said is not right.
What? Shouldn't mothers touch their sons' bodies?
They would die if they saw their sons so mutilated.
Yes. It's painful to see gore and disfigurement of the dead.
Oh, then why do you suggest adding to their grief?
You're right. You must endure to stay there. Theseus has the right idea. After we put the remains on the pyre, you will take away their bones. Oh, wretched mortals. Why do you take up spears and inflict bloodshed on each other? Give it up, I tell you. Cease your toils and keep your cities at peace with peaceful neighbors. Life's necessities are small. We should pass through them as simply as possible, without taking on added labors.
A happy mother. No more. No more a mother at all. I have no share in the happiness of Argive mothers, mothers of sons. Artemis, helper of birthing, has no words for the childless. Life is not worth living. Like a cloud, I flutter, tossed by wintry winds. 7 unhappy mothers, we gave birth to 7 sons, noblest among the Argives. And now, without a child, without a son, I grow old in ceaseless misery, counted not among the living, not among the dead. My fate is apart from theirs. Tears are left to me. In my home lie sad memories of my son. Hair cut in mourning, crowns for festivals, libations for the dear departed dead, and songs, though not the kind golden-haired Apollo is glad to hear. Waking to sounds of grief, I wet the folds of my robes on my breast, drenched with tears. Here, I see the covered chamber of Capaneus in his sacred tomb outside the temple. Theseus' offerings to the dead, and look, up there, near the man killed by the lightning bolt, his noble wife Evadne, daughter of Iphis the king. Why is she standing on the towering rock that looms over the temple, moving along the path?
What light, what brilliance the sun conveyed, and the moon bright in a sky where swift stars shoot through the dark. When at my wedding the town of Argos towered up songs and blessings and praised the bridegroom, Capaneus armed and bronzed. To you I have come rushing like a bacchant from my house, seeking the pyre's flame and the same tomb, in death to end my painful life and the sadness of living. Sweetest is this death, to die with my dead lover, if destiny will allow it.
And truly, near where you are standing, you can see his pyre, Zeus's reliquary, where your husband lies, struck down by the thundering flames.
I see my journey end here where I stand. Fortune joins her footsteps with mine. For glory's sake, I hurried here to leap from this cliff onto the pyre, to meld my body into the bright flame with my husband's, my loving flesh. Lying with his flesh, I will go down to Persephone's chamber beneath the earth. Never by prolonging my life will I betray your death, life. Marriage, farewell. Let births of children bring brightness to other lovely unions sung of in Argos. Here, a wedded husband is fused by guileless winds of love to his generous wife.
Look, your own father is coming here, the aged Iphis, into this strange exchange of words, which will add to his grief when he hears things he never imagined.
Unhappy women, I've come, a sad old man, nursing in my heart a double grief for my children, to convey my dead son home, Etioclass, slain by the Theban spear, into the land of his fathers, and hoping to find my daughter, who is gone in a frenzy from her home, the wife of Capaneus. She's struck by a longing to lie dead with her husband. Earlier, we kept her watched closely in the house, but when I let down my guard in the present troubles and left her unattended, she bolted. I think it is very likely she is here. Tell me if you have seen her.
Why question them? Here I am on this cliff, like a bird hovering above Capaneus' pyre, Father, in my despair. I feel weightless on this height.
My child, what ill breeze, what wanderlust. Oh, why did you steal away from your home and come here?
You would become angry with me if you heard my reasons. I don't want to tell you, Father.
What's this? Doesn't a father have a right to know?
No. You would not be a wise judge of my thinking.
Why have you dressed yourself in this costume?
My dress means to bring me my share of glory, Father.
You do not look as if you were in mourning for your husband.
I am dressed for something wonderful and new.
And yet you are appearing beside his pyre and tomb.
I have come here for my own glorious victory.
What victory will you win? You must tell me this.
I will surpass all women under the eye of the sun.
In the crafts of Athena, or in the mind's good sense?
In my heart's courage, I will lie in death with my husband.
What are you saying? What do you mean by this crazy riddle?
I will leap onto my dead Capaneus' pyre.
My dear daughter, do not tell this story in public.
That is just what I want for all the Argives to know.
No, I will never allow you to do this drastic deed.
It doesn't matter. You will never catch me in your arms. And now I let my body plummet not to your liking, but to mine and my dead husband's, who will burn with me.
She leaps onto the pyre.
Oh, woman, you have done something awful.
Oh, my grief. I am ruined. Oh, women of Argos.
You have suffered cruelly. To your grief you see the awful daring of this deed.
You could not find an unhappier man in all the world.
Yes, your life is tragic. You have had your share of Oedipus luck, you along with my unhappy city.
Oh, God. Why can't humans have a second chance to be young twice and in time to be old again? If something doesn't turn out well in our homes, we can make it right by understanding we gain after. But this is not possible in life. If we were young twice and then old, if a person made a mistake, we could fix it with our gift of second life. Look at me. I saw other men who had children, and I wanted to be a father. Desire was ruining my life. If I had been there, if I had had the experience of what it is like for a father to lose his children, I would never have come into the grief I feel now. I, who fathered a son and was parent to the best, most wonderful young man, have lost him now. There it is. What should I do? A devastated man like me. Go home? And then I would look at the empty rooms of my house, so many of them, and nowhere to go? Or should I go to the house of Capaneus here? I loved to go there when my daughter was alive. She is gone now too. She used to kiss my cheek, take my head in her hands every time I came over. There's nothing that gives a father greater pleasure when he's old than a daughter. Our sons' natures are high-spirited, not as sweet or affectionate as theirs. Will you not take me with all haste to my home? Hide me in the darkness where my aged body can waste away in starvation until I finally shuffle off. What comfort will it be to touch my child's ashes? Old age, you have gotten the best of me. Now I have you how I hate you. I despise those who desire to prolong their lives with foods and drinks and magic spells, trying to reverse nature's course and avoid death. Since they are a burden to the earth, they should pass away in death and make room for the young.
Oh, here are the bones of our dead boys. Hold me up. Servants, hold up this weak old woman. My grief leaves no strength in me. I have lived too many lengths of time, shed my tears in too many sorrows. What greater sorrow could you find among mortals than this, than to live to see your children in the grave?
I am bringing them, unhappy mother, my father's bones from the pyre, a weight made heavier from grief. All I have is squeezed into this tiny space.
Why do you bring tears to the loving mother of the dead? A tiny bit of dust instead of their bodies once glorious in Messene.
Childless. You are childless, but to my sorrow, I have lost my unlucky father, and I will live in a house empty and fatherless, not held in my father's arms.
Where is the toil for my children? Where the loving return for childbirth? Mother's worries and the cares of sleepless eyes, loving kisses on their faces.
They are gone, no more alive. Oh, me father! They are gone.
The sky holds them now, burnt to dust on the pyre. They have flitted off to Hades.
Father, do you hear your children's keening? Will I one day take up a shield to avenge your death, Father? I pray it will happen. If God wills it, vengeance will come for my father.
The sorrow does not yet sleep. Woe, woe in lamentation. Enough destiny, enough grief is mine today.
The bright water of Esopus will welcome me in bronze armor at the head of an army of Danaans, righteous avenger of my father. I think I see you still before my eyes, Father.
Planting a loving kiss on your cheek.
Consoling words blown away in the wind.
For us both, he has left pain. For his mother and grief for your father will never leave you.
I bear so heavy a burden that it is killing me.
Come, let me take the ashes to my breast.
Words of yours bring tears to my eyes. It's so sad, it breaks my heart.
My son, you are gone. Now I will never see you anymore. Precious darling boy of your loving mother.
Adrastus and you women, natives of Argos, you see these children bearing in their arms the bodies of their heroic fathers that I have recovered. I bestow them as a gift upon you, I and the city. You must be ever mindful of this and keep gratitude in your hearts, seeing how I acted for you, and repeat these same words to your children to honor this city and to their children's children, passing down the tradition of how you were treated. Zeus be our witness, along with the heavenly gods, of what you received from us as you go on your way.
Theseus, We are aware of all the good you have done to benefit the land of Argos in our need, and we will have eternal gratitude toward you. We have experienced your noble generosity and owe you a like return.
Is there any other way I can be of service to you?
Farewell, for you and your city are worthy.
And so it will be. And may you have the same good fortune.
Hear, Theseus, these words spoken by Athena, which you must heed, and if you do, you will prosper. Do not give the bones to these children to carry into the land of Argos, letting them go so easily. But in return for your hardships and those of the city, first take an oath. This oath, Adrastus must swear. He holds sway, and as master of all the territory of Danaans, it is up to him to take the oath. This is to be the oath. Never will the Argives bring hostile troops in armor into this land. If others attack, they will deploy their army to oppose them. If, abandoning their oath, they come against our city, the land of Argives will perish utterly in return. And what vessel you must slay the victims, I will tell you. There is within the halls a tripod with bronze feet, which after he had overthrown the foundations of Troy, and before starting out on another adventure, Heracles commanded you to set up at the Pythian hearth. On this, first cut the 3 throats of 3 sheep, and then inscribe the oath in the hollow belly of the tripod, and give it to the god who oversees Delphi as a memorial of the oath and a witness to Greece. The sharp-bladed knife with which you carry out the sacrifices and draw their blood, bury it in the depths of the earth beside the pyre where the 7 bodies are burned. The sight of it will strike fear in them if they ever come against the city and cause them a tragic homecoming. Once this is done, the urns may be carried out of our land where the bodies were purified by fire. Keep that place as a sacred precinct just by the turnoff to the isthmus. That is all I have to say to you. But to the sons of Argos, when you reach manhood, you will sack the city of Ismenus, avenging the deaths of your father. You, Aegialeus, as a young man in your father's place, will be commander of the army, and the son of Tydeus, called Diomedes by his father, will come from Aetolia. But you must not delay. Once the beard shadows your jaw, to deploy the bronze-armed forces of Danaans against the 7-gated battlements of Thebes. To their regret, you will come upon them, reared up as the cubs of these lions for the overthrow of their city. There is no other way. Avenging sons, you will be called through Greece in songs for future generations. So great an army you will bring with God on your side.
Queen Athena, I will obey your words. You keep me in the right so I do not miss the mark. I will bind him with oaths. Only guide me right, for if you are propitious to our city, our future is assured for all time to come.
Let us go, Adrastus. Let us swear the oath to this man and city. It is only right that we honor those who have toiled for us.
Blackout. End of play.